I have so much to say right now, I don't even know where to begin. So get ready, sit back, and let me see if I can get through this within the confines and within the minefields of that which we are forced to deal with here today. Does that make any sense to you? We have minefields that we have to deal with. We have limitations and rules. We have to speak sometimes in code. One of the interesting things about doing this is like when you're talking with a child, and sometimes you'll spell a word, and sometimes you'll refer to various things. You know what I mean? You'll kind of say, "Well, I don't want to not know," because as you know, it is very important for you to recognize something which is very critical, and that is simply this: you are not able to speak your mind under any circumstances whatsoever. Do not fall. Let me just remind you of this. Okay? This is it. This is the part which is so important. Um there's something I heard the other day which is very interesting. Um there was something called, and I heard somebody say this. It's the AA, Alcoholics Anonymous Serenity Prayer, and I heard it, and I heard people reference it, but I never really listened to it. It didn't make any. I always say, oh yeah, that's that AA. I didn't know what it was. Oh yeah, that's that AA. Yeah, that's that. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's that AA. Yeah, okay. But listen to this and how interesting it is. It says, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. And by the way, did you know there's more to it? It's like the second verse of the Pledge of Allegiance or the Star Spangled Banner. It says, living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardships as the pathway to peace, taking as he did the sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that he will make things right. If I surrender to his will so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with him forever and ever in the next amen. I think the second part loses it, but I like this part, the first part. To accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. That is exactly what I want you to do, to understand this, the difference. We're going to be talking about things. We're not going to sit back and just let things happen without fighting back. But we're going to do our best to say, but we're going to do everything. Now, before we begin, let me tell you something. I ask you, of course, to follow me on that Twitter X thing, which is important. Please subscribe to this channel. It's so critical. I want you all, you know the routine, to like the video, likes, and to subscribe as well, as I just said. Also hit the YouTube notification bell to be notified of live streams and new videos, and understand something, that there is a separate version, the adult table at Lionel Media, where I can talk about things. And one of the things we're going to discuss today, in which I go into great detail and almost cataclysmic, is the story that follows. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and four other 9/11 masterminds are going to enter a plea and to avoid the death penalty. Let me say this again, the 9/11 mastermind. Do you hear what I just said? Are you following what I just said? Did you grasp this? Did you catch it? Did you hear what I said? The 9/11 mastermind. He is the mastermind. He's it. He's the guy. He is. You have no idea what 9/11 means to me. You have no, there's no way I can tell you. That was my, it's weird using that AA thing. And by the way, God bless anybody in any group of people who try to take command of something which is so deadly and so existential in its threat. And I mean that. I mean that sincerely. There's no way. It's one thing for you to, go to the gym, and that's nice. But to do something like that, to change a behavior that is so hardwired, that's going to kill you, no, it takes supreme courage. And you are to be commended. But by analogy, that's the day I got sober, 9/11. It was the day I put down the magic glasses, the Kool-Aid, the whatever you want to call it, whatever that is. 9/11, that Tuesday, 21 years ago, was when everything changed. Everything. This is the most important moment of my life. I want to talk to you. And the stories, and I just remember, I cannot do that here. I just did a piece, my reaction to it, where I do not hold back at all. And the reason why I don't hold back at all is because I can tell you, this is what makes no sense to me. This is the part that makes no sense to me. This is the part. These are the facts. Now, let me try to explain something to you. And this is important. This is critical. Before we go on, we got some great stuff to talk about. I want you to understand something. If I present to you a story, let me give you an analogy. Let's say I give you a mosaic, a bunch of tiles. Okay? A bunch of tiles, a bunch of these tiles, like a mosaic. And you see it. Oh, look at that. There's the land, there's the sun, there's the people. And I would, let's say there's 1,000 pieces. And I were to pull out 5 of those tiles, 5 random colored tiles of that mosaic. You could still say, well, there's pieces missing, but I can still see. Or think of it as a puzzle. I can still see the picture. All right, let me pull some more out. Now I'm starting to see less of it, but I still kind of see the story. I still see the picture. Do you see the story because you knew what it was initially? And now you're recognizing what it looks like afterwards? Is that what you're doing? Let me try this. You recognize this original picture. Okay, good. I'm going to show this picture to some people who never saw the original picture. See what they say. And they'll look at it and say, I don't know what this is. If I take something that happened to you, Lahaina, JFK, Vietnam, 2020 election, whatever it is, and I give you the story and I tell you, this is what happened. This is what happened. Okay. And then later on, we find out, well, that didn't happen and that didn't happen. And I start pulling out pieces. You are going to see the representation of it based upon what you originally were told it was. So you won't see the glaring omissions. You won't recognize the glaring omissions. This is the part I can't explain to you. You won't see them. You won't recognize them. You won't. You can't. You can't do it. You can't see this. And it's one of those things which is so important to understand. We talked the other day about so much stuff. And I'm telling you, we talked about everything from energy weapons to the Lahaina story is so huge, so big, so enormous, so monstrous. You don't know yet what's going on. Do you see where this their FEMA guy quit or whatever it was. Watch what's happening there. But let me stop. The storyline is as follows. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the suspected mastermind, the mastermind of the 9/11 attacks, and his fellow defendants, 4, I believe, may never face the death penalty due to plea agreements. They've been in Guantanamo since 9/11/01. The prosecution and 4 others held has been repeatedly disrupted due to legal reasons over their interrogation. As a result of the delays, it has taken more than a decade to reach a verdict. His families, It was Mohammed who presented the idea of such an attack to the U.S. to Al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden. The investigation, this is according to, by the way, I'm reading, this is from Sky News. It was Mohammed who presented the idea to Al-Qaeda. The investigation also found Mohammed received authorization from bin Laden to mastermind the attacks, while the 4 of the men are alleged to have supported the hijackers in various ways. The Pentagon and FBI sent the update of the plea agreement to several families of the victims. It said the Office of the Chief Prosecutor has been negotiating and is considering entering into pre-trial agreements. It told the families that while no plea agreement has been finalized and may never be finalized, it is possible that a pre-trial agreement in this case would remove the possibility of the death penalty. Now, let me tell you what I feel when I hear that. And I can't put this into words, but I'm going to do my best. I am absolutely overwhelmed by that day and what amounts to 22 years of some of the most assiduous self-study that I have ever had the opportunity of engaging in. 22 years. And breaking the entire event into different segments, different areas, which I go to and go through. Never here. Never. I will never discuss this in this platform. Never. Oh no. And I promise you, I was just doing just a cursory review. And by the way, here is if you're interested in my channel. But I was looking at this cursory review, and I've come to one important, very, very, very critical thing, which I want you to keep in mind. I want you to think about this one. Today, whatever the story is, hope to God that it's covered by the internet. The internet is where truth goes to die. And it dies a variety of different deaths. It dies in ways you never thought even possible. It dies in areas that I cannot explain to you why it dies. Let me give you an example. And please bear with me. I've got a lot to say. And this may seem rather arduous today, but it's very, very serious. Let's assume you decided in front of everyone to pull out a weapon and do something heinous in front of everybody on primetime TV. You do this. Let me tell you what would happen next. You ready? Let me tell you. It would run. Remember, you've just done this. You've done something just obvious. It will run on the internet. TikTok will pick it up. Other patterns. Somebody will put music to it. Everybody will comment on it. People will be in their bedroom. Hey, guys. It'll start off like that with a hey, guys video. Hey, guys is this. thing that we all say that signals you're about to have your mind numbed by virtue of this. Hey guys, okay. Then you will have every conceivable lunatic come forward and discuss what happened clearly in front of the world. And within no time, it will seem like a joke. People will lose all interest in it and you can walk free. That's exactly what happened. People are saturated with information, saturated with data, saturated with information, and they're not able to comply or comport themselves in a way where they're able to deal with this. I have been to, I'm telling you, MUFON, UFO meetings, a number of 9/11 confabs, and a bunch of them. I've been to gun shows. The scariest thing I ever went to was a knife show. Unbelievable. That one was, I've been to 9/11 UFOs. Yeah. And something happens when people get together. Remember, I went there thinking, okay, I understand. I'm very, very studious about what I think about guns and UFOs and whatever. And I read things, and I want evidence. I don't want anything other than evidence. I don't want some, and you show up to this thing, and there's some idiot with a straw hat and a big button. When you wear a button, you're telling the world, I'm a crackpot. And you see these people who have these jobs going, 9/11 was an inside job. That's it. Okay. Let's go. Time to go. Why? We got these people here. And I'm not even going to argue what motivates them, whether they're wrong or crazy, whatever, because, crazy people can be right. Remember the old great line from SCTV? Sure, he's crazy, but what if he's right? Remember that one? Okay. UFOs. Oh, forget it. If you want to see any joke, go to Roswell, go to any place that has a confab, a convocation, a high summit of any purveyors, civil war, maybe to an extent. You bring people together, and first of all, who are the people who love to show up at parties? Nuts, for the most part. And who are people who sometimes wear big buttons? Nuts, because they want the world to know you don't understand something. It's not that I've studiously applied my rational belief. It's that I want you to know that I've got this figured out and you don't. I'm going to tell you right now, 9/11 for the KSM group is divided up into the following different events. And you can figure the area you want to focus on. There is the initial two towers, the twin towers, North Tower, South Tower. And I put that into one group. Second is Building 7, which nobody ever talks about, at 5:20 p.m., which is the greatest example of like, what? Don't even bother. You either know it or you don't. In fact, there was a group used to be called buildingwhat.com. And the reason why is they went to federal court, and the federal judge was asked at the time, he said, what is the name of this group? I think it was a FOIA request or something. He said, what's the name of this group? He said, Building 7. He said, building what? And they called it buildingwhat.com after this judge. So we got North Tower, South Tower, Building 7, Shanksville, which is Flight 93, which is the third part. Fourth is the Pentagon. And then you have attendant issues, safety of 9/11 workers. You have other things too. You can talk about the Cheney Bush connection, the Norman Mineta testimony. You can talk about, you can go back and watch a lot of the testimony. And what you will see, and I want you to be very, very clear you understand this. You will see a particular fact which is not necessarily consistent with a fact that was presented as the official statement. And it goes back to my analogy of the tile. There'll be pieces missing, but you can still see the story. You can still see it, but you got to ask, how critical is this tile? How critical is it? How critical does all this mean? What does it mean? If this proves not to be true, or this is replaced with this fact, how different does it make? And more importantly, And by the way, taking this issue, you step back from this, and the subsidiary derivative issue of this is the notion of crowd thinking and crowd theory. How do crowds think? Now, at the time this happened, there were a group of people that began to enjoy a certain status as being conspiracy theory debunkers. This is when I really heard the word for the first time collectively. Remember, 21 years ago, the internet was brand new. It was the frontier. It was the greatest time ever. It was wonderful. Had some crackpots. You always have that, no matter what. Go to a football game. Go to a religious meeting. Go to a wedding. Go anywhere. You'll see crazy people say crazy things. But it's the first time I heard this. But I learned there were people who took great love of being the debunkers. For everyone who loves UFOs, there are people who think the idea is nuts. For everybody who believes in UFOs, or somebody else will say, this is crazy, you're crazy, they're crazy, this is nuts, you're crazy, this is crazy, you're nuts, you're a lunatic. They love this. It empowers them. Let me give you this next story. And I have to tell you this. This was absolutely the greatest. This was it. We were at an event. I'm not going to go into detail. Mrs. L and I were at an event. And various testimony is being played. And the subject is child trafficking and child abuse, just the usual, okay? And the subject of Sound of Freedom came up. Sound of Freedom was the most important, pivotal, critical moment in our history where people, for the first time, truly felt they were of the opinion, in a very strange way, that they, how do I say this? That people were fascinated by this. They knew something's up. They knew something. This doesn't. Okay, fine. Now, how many dear friends watching right now, and please like this, I have to always ask, how many of you fine folks saw Sound of Freedom? And I need 300 likes at this point. I'm sorry to say this. It's true. How many saw Sound of Freedom? How many? How many of you fine freedom? Just curious, because I know more people who have seen it and who changed. Look at this. Me. I only heard it. Yes, saw it twice. Look at this. Saw it twice. Not yet. Demetrius, I guess, saw it. I saw it. See before it comes to the UN. Not yet. I saw it. Okay, so a lot of people did. Okay. As we were in this group, you've got to listen to what I'm saying. This is so important and so critical. As we're in this group, I look, and there's this guy like this. I'm not going to tell you where this was, but if you knew, it would make it even more interesting. But I'm not. And he's like this. And he gets up. He walks outside. He's in this hallway. And this was just a discussion. And these are professionals talking about, not about Sound of Freedom, but talking about the notion of child trafficking and how do you know the warning signs and all this. And he's saying like this. And I thought it was very odd, but since it was kind of like an official setting and with security, I really didn't think that much about it. Turns out, we found out later on, he was going crazy. This is true. Texting people, suggesting that this was a conspiracy theory. And in the course of this, this we're talking about children learning the warning signs, UN studies, what other law enforcement, FBI, what everybody's saying. We're not even remotely discussing Sound of Freedom. It was just brought up. He's texting stuff about Pizzagate. And I thought to myself, wow. And I wanted I didn't know this at the time, found out later on, but I would have loved to have said, may I talk to you? Tell me the connection you made. I'm just curious. Because you see, in his world, he is a believer and he receives succor and a sense of calm and a sense of validation by saying, I'm not a part of these dread conspiracy people, even though we're talking about child predation. Here's the best part. Are you ready for this? Sit down for this. Turns out we find out that this one individual happens to work in a situation of let's just say charity, social work, where he deals with kids and families and crime and disaster. He's in this world. He's in this world. Imagine being somebody who is paid, charged, whatever, with investigating perhaps child abuse, child predation, and you think that somebody who brings up a movie only in the context of, did you see it? Who saw it? Is upset because this is the biggest movie that would theoretically cause attention to your own particular world. And his view is, what? This is what I realized. Wow. And it goes back to people who love their religion is to debunk. Their religion is they love to say, you're a conspiracy. It's like the Shermers, they're skeptics, the supposed skeptics. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Could not believe this. And it made me think again. I found out that there is a new branch of human being, a new offshoot of human being, a new group of people who love to say to you that you are, who love to call you names. You're a conspiracy theorist and they hate you. Okay? Now, next, we have to talk about this one. This is the part that kills me. This is the part that just blows my mind. Blows my mind. There is this, how do I say this? This is from Yahoo News. As you know, yesterday, there was a case we talked about. Rachel Levine, one of the nation's openly transgender, I think the only one, you know she is, was recently targeted by, according to, I'm reading Yahoo News, was targeted by conservative outlets for supporting Identity Alaska, which uses gender-neutral terms such as birth parent or egg producer to replace the word mother. Targeted by conservative outlets. You see how this works? You have an organization that wants to refer to mother as egg producer. And they're a conservative. Well, let me read you the story. This is a right-wing commentator. This is so good. This is Yahoo News. Is urging fellow conservatives to be, quote, more homophobic and take their anti-LGBT rhetoric up a notch. Now, what this has to do with Rachel Levine, I have no idea, because I don't believe I believe Rachel Levine will tell you she's a woman. She's not a lesbian, but in any event, if they even use that word anymore. Christian rapper Shamika Michelle was one of the guests on Wednesday night's broadcast. Eric Bowling, The Balance. First, there is nothing balanced about anything. Nothing. There is nothing balanced about anything. Nobody wants balance. Nobody wants fair and balance. It's just don't just whatever. Okay. Bowling, a former Fox News personality, ousted by the Murdoch-owned network in 2017 over an alleged sexting scandal, invited Michelle and Common Sense Executive Director Chris Bedford to discuss recent comments made by Assistant Secretary for Health Rachel Levine about gender equality. Bowling started the 4-minute segment by asking Michelle what she thought of Levine's comments. Quote, I guess if I were identifying as egg producers, I should just identify as a chicken from now on. What we have done is we have put in place people that 20 years ago would have been locked in an insane asylum. We've put them in prominent positions to completely confuse our children. Later on in the segment, Bedford added to the conversation, saying the ultimate goal of some of the LGBTQ community is to indoctrinate children. Right now, it is really a thing that says, if I don't accept this predatory mental illness, then you're a bigot. And it's already coming for your kids, he said. Okay. Bowling agreed, arguing the more conservatives talk about it, the more they are called bigoted and homophobic. Quote, I actually think if that's the case, this is according to Shamika Michelle, quote, I actually think if that's the case, we need to be more homophobic. We need to take it up a notch because these people have continued to do this because we failed to shame them. We failed to put our feet down and stand tall and say that we believe without the fear of being canceled. Now is not the time to worry about having friends, she added. It is about linking up with people who have the same values as you and striving. This is a war between good and evil. Okay. Now, I got to discuss this with you for just a second. First, and by the by, here's Bradley Oplin. Good old Bradley Oplin says, our neurotic personalities freeze the pursuit of truth. They are like deer in headlights. Today, the internet is the light, Lucifer, that blinds all of us. There are no definitive solutions. WTF. Well, thank you very much, Bradley. I appreciate that. And you are correct. There are no definitive. But this is one of these issues which I find funny. Number one, first, this show, never seen it. Eric Bowling covers the intellectual spectrum, as Dorothy Parker would say, from A to B. Meat and potatoes, no shisa obviousness, ham-fisted obvious. This is the unimaginative, it's okay. Listen, the left has their stuff in the right. To sit around and say, these people are crazy and they will be in an insane asylum. Let me ask you something. Does anybody here believe that Rachel Levine should be in an insane asylum? Now think about carefully what you're saying. Think about it. Anything? Does that sound? Is this something you would want to want? Anything? Do you think that would make sense? Anybody think that saying what does this remind you of? What does this remind you of? How about Alan Turing? How about that? How about the fact when we did put people who were gay or trans, castrated them, lobotomized them, put them into mental hospitals? See, let me explain something to you. And with all due respect, if you love moronic, simplistic, kind of conservative talk, that's for you. Newsmax, or I don't want, I can't even tell you that I don't watch it. But this one I've seen before in the past, and is a moron. But a moron who serves a purpose, a very simplistic. And we, you, are being lumped into this because of this no shite obviousness. These simpletons, these knuckle draggers, mouth breathing, old fire and brimstone conservative types that I detest. There's no depth. There's no, I mean, whatever. And it's simple. And listen, it's a free country. But this is where, put it this way, these are the groups with the buttons. This is the group. This is where the, and if you want to, honestly, I promise you, Eric Bowling will not be breaking apart the intricacies of 9/11 because he knows nothing about it. He will look at nothing. There's no depth. There's no depth. You ever watch a food show where they eat something? Ooh, I like that. I like the mouth feel. I feel that on the palate. Now I'm getting the cilantro. That I love that. Isn't it interesting? You break it apart. You know, you're eating something and they're breaking it apart. The aftertaste, the mouthfeel, the this and that, the texture, the wonderful. This is Eric Bowling. You know what I mean? You're both eating, you're both enjoying it. If you want to eat like Fred Flintstone, that's for you. And there's a real market for it. And to give things these grandiose, I did the balance and the text, and to have a lot of narratives of right or wrong and conservatives and this and that. Do I want to be homophobic? No. This is stupid. Is this the end of the world? Of course not. But we come across like idiots. And I do not include myself in this. This is why these people do nothing for me. I have no idea. And I'm telling you, walk away from them. They don't represent you. They don't represent us. I'm proud to be nuanced. I'm proud to say, well, that's not exactly what I'm saying. Well, that's not it precisely. But let me tell you something. Let me explain something to you. And this is the most important part. And this is the thing which we have to recognize. That's a very, very simple comment. And it may not necessarily make any difference in terms of the world of conservative television. And by the way, you ought to understand something. And I want you, just as a programming note, in the world of conservative programming, they believe that Fox News is dead. So they're all trying to pick up the slack. They're trying to figure out where can we pick up the Fox crew? Where can we get them? And they're obviously, and they think that they're leaving because of Tucker. And by the way, Vic Ramaswamy, Tucker had a very good discussion, and Ramaswamy can say absolutely nothing. Have you noticed that? He's very good at what say nothing. Nothing. Sounds good. Fast. Talk fast. Ben Shapiro fast. Your favorite, what's your name? God. Candace Owens. Fast. Talk fast. That's a substitute for intelligence. Talk fast. My God, he's smart. Listen how fast he talks. But what is he saying? It's like you ever heard an ad on radio where they used to take the disclaimer, void were prohibited, dealer prep and options, must be 18, not available. And they take it and they put it in and then they speed it up. And you wonder, what? That's the disclaimer? I don't know. That's Shapiro and Candace Owens and whatever. And Ramaswamy has that thing to it. But listen carefully. I listened to I learned nothing where you would say, wow. We live in a world that doesn't want us. We live in a world where we would like to spend more than 5 minutes with some moron hosting a show, balancing two other morons, trying anything to get clips, or rather likes, credits, to go viral. It's all they want. They don't care. Morons, just simpletons. Let me ask you a question. Little kids, let's start with this simply. Little kids who are afraid of the dark, little kids who want you to look under the bed and maybe in the closet because they think there's a monster. Little kids who don't know what their favorite color is. Little kids who laugh at poop jokes, and little kids who don't know hate. They don't know racism. They don't know gender. They don't know sexuality. They know roles. They know dresses and mommies and daddies, and they know little things. And we walk them as adults into this cruel world with as little problem as possible. We don't hit them with things. We don't hit them with things about transgenderism. We don't say that so-and-so has two mommies, two daddies. This may be nothing to you, but it's confounding to a kid. Now, confounding is good if you have them wonder about some things, but confusing is another. If you show a kid a magic trick, they love that. Is it under this one or this one? How did you do that? That's good. That makes them think. Confusing them is a different story. Have you ever heard kids ask you questions? I'm going to give you my favorite story. Well, two. Actually, from the same person. Liberal Democrat, big in the rock music world. May or may not know his name, doesn't matter. His daughter, even more liberal than he is. She said, I pride myself. My son has never seen a cartoon. What? My son has never seen a gun. Never seen a gun? Never. Not a TV show, not a picture, nothing. They're sitting around and they're having Ore-Ida, these steak fries. And they're eating, and he's in his, I don't know, high chair, whatever the hell it is. And as they're eating, he takes out the Ore-Ida French fry and says, this is my magic pickle. And says, bang. She said, how in the hell? And I said, your child is perfectly normal. Your child is perfectly normal. Your child is just fine. He's a boy. He's not going to be a mass murderer. Just let it go. Kid's fine now. Great kid. The parents, worried about, they didn't make a big deal. Where did you get that? Who told you about this gun thing? What are you, crazy? The deaths and the... No, let it go. Here's the best. Little kid. Daddy? Yes. Why are my teachers so many colors? I love this one. So he sits down and says, sit down. She thinks, oh my God, I'm in trouble. Why? Because he's giving me the old let's sit down thing. And that only comes along when there's somebody doing something wrong. He says, you see, honey, the world, 23 degrees, the sun hits, this is the equator. And when you tend to be near the equator, like look at what's near the equator, like Africa, various, and the sun will hit versus up here or down here where the sun, and therefore skin, by virtue of dealing with the rays of the sun, will have to alter through evolution, pigmentation, through melanogenesis, and melanin, and darkness. And sometimes, and the kid's looking at him like, what the fuck are you talking about? So finally, my friend, the teacher, or my teacher, says, why do you ask? Which is what you should always ask. Right off the bat, why do you ask? And his daughter said, well, my teachers have so many colors, Mrs. White, Mrs. Green, Mrs. Brown. And there he was off talking about melanin and the sun And she says, I got a teacher named Mrs. White. What the hell's going on here? This is the lunacy that we're dealing with. This is the lunacy. My point is, kids do not understand this. Mommy? No. Egg producer? What? But that's my mommy. No, Tiffany. You see, a mother is a term that connotes gender-based. Because my mommy's a woman. Well, not necessarily. Are you a woman, Mrs. Levine? Well, yes. Can you have a baby? No. Are you an egg producer? No. And by the way, I don't think anybody refers to a hen. I understand the joke. I got it. But so what do you call an egg producer? A mother? Now, if an egg producer, let's say mommies can't have eggs, are they still mommies? Yes. If a mommy loses her ability to have eggs after she's had a baby, she's still a mommy? Yes. Can a mommy adopt? Yes. But she's not an egg producer, yeah. Father's not an egg producer either. So why can't the father be a mommy? What? You see where you're going with this? You're confusing a kid. This is a bunch of adults sitting around saying, is this great or what? This is fantastic. See, you're not a black, I'll never forget, I'll never forget when person of color came up. What? Person of color? What the hell is that? I am from the South. I remember Negro colored. I can remember as clear as day the word colored, not colored back, but the word colored. I never saw in my life in the South ever racism. Never. Maybe I just lived up. Never heard the N word. I knew some people said it, but nobody. I never heard anti-Semitism or anything anti-Catholic. I just didn't. Never heard anything like that. But when you're a kid and you see what the Eric Bowlings and others are going to be talking about, this will never make it because this is Newsmax and you've got 25 minutes. We've got to hurry up. I don't have time for this. Don't get into this nuanced stuff. Is when you talk about kids, about things that are weird. Because remember, one of the problems with, and this is weird, when you talk to kids about sex, is stuff that may bother them. It's weird. For example, I remember one time, there was a kid we knew who was watching. Apparently, there was something on TV. It was not a sex scene, but it was arousal or something. And the woman was doing and she was, breathless. And the kid said, "Is she okay? Is she okay? Is she hurt?" Kid looked at it, saw pain. Didn't see ecstasy, saw pain. You jadrool. Don't you see how this works? They don't think the way we do. They don't understand the way we do. They don't see things. When the movie, I've said this a million times, when Home Alone came out, I'm sitting next to this kid. I don't know why I was there, but I had this kid next to this kid. And lo and behold, there's this scene where Macaulay Culkin says, that he's left alone. And the kid next to me turns to his parent and says, "They are coming home, right?" Because what's the kid's number one fear? Abandonment. Remember in the old days in department stores, we have a lost boy here in men's furniture. His name is Timmy. We have a lost boy. Today they wouldn't do that. "Hey, Timmy, who is that?" "I'm your dad." "No, you're not." Be a little different story today, but still, we don't know what kids think about. So one of the things which the Eric Bowling show would not be able to understand, or Shamika or the other guy, is that we're not talking about that. The greatest form of damage is confusion and delight that we as adults take in trying to play with science and nature. We did this years ago with the notion of creation and that sort of thing. So let me just leave it at that. let me also say that how I loathe these shows, The Balance. And I also have to tell you something right now. I can understand a lot of things. I will understand a lot of things, but taking a picture of your genitals and sending them on a phone text, I do not understand. And I'll leave it at that. Okay. Next. Yes. The $700. Did you hear this? Your president decides it was a good idea to send or to authorize $700 per household for the folks of Lahaina. $700 per household, not per person. Huh? Household. No. Per household. Biden, no. Yeah. Biden offers contemptible $700 per household. Per household. Do you know what they're doing in New York? We heard this from one of our colleagues the other day. In New York, illegal immigrant. Ready for this? $10,000 a month. But they say roughly about 4 people, about $4,000, roughly $4,000 a household per month. I'm sorry, 40,000. Pardon me, 10,000 per person, 40,000 a month. A month, 40,000 a month per household for illegals. And here, when you're in New York, you can always see new backpack, kids on scooters. Remember those kids on 57th Street? They didn't know where the hell they were going. They were like on their own. There were these kids on these little, they have these little push scooters. They're by themselves on 57th Street. They're just in traffic. I mean, it's the damnedest thing. Anyway, they all have a little backpack and they have devices, brand new. And they all have, I don't want to say, but very, very nice, right? But they have a kind of a Central American look, you know. There is such a thing where you say, oh, where are you from? You can see. But in Lahaina, $700 per household. Have you heard anything about the kids dead? No. About the kids missing? How about the cadaver dogs? How about the kids on the beach? How about death and destruction? How about the fact that there's one road? How about the fact that they've been ignored? You do know this, right? Do you know on this other world, this wonderful world, this alternative world, which I hope we can get to right. I hope it's the black world of truth, or you know, the black web, the dark web, the invisible web. But I wish we can go, everybody can talk about this, because what you are actually seeing is incredible. And I'm telling you, my friends, and even though you and your directed energy weapons might be perhaps in need of some redirection, the number of people who are saying without a doubt, the number of people who are saying this is not normal. We have been the victims of something that transcends the notion of regular weather. You cannot believe what they are saying. And are you to dispute them, reject them, ignore them? What? How do you? What exactly are you? What are you doing? Do we just ignore them? Tell me. Tell me. What? What? You see, we're never going to get to that point. Remember Richard Clark? I was looking at some 9/11 stuff. Remember Richard Clark? We let you down. Forgotten. Remember Colleen Rowley, whatever, FBI? Forgotten. You see, while people, again, morons want to talk about, I'm homophobic. I mean, which is great, you know, whatever. There exists in the world today, dare I say, a more refined, a more intelligent, and a far more insidiously dangerous investigator. The number, and I want you to understand this, and this goes to everybody, the number of people who don't have a show and a set and makeup and hair and all that stuff. The number of people who are putting shows out and putting things out on various channels are so superior But because they don't look like a regular show, they don't have that, that schmaltzy network look. Nobody pays attention to them. You and I know exactly what we want in our truth. We know exactly what we want. And let me go back and tell you something right now. For the morons, for the meatball shows, balance. The fellow I mentioned the other day, who was in this audience, who believed he was a left-wing anti-conspiracist. There were right wings. There are people who love everybody, the morons on TV shows who think that they are morally superior. They figured this thing out. They understand Rachel Levine. Let me explain something. Rachel Levine, and I'm sorry to say this. To me, I understand what's going on. I have no contempt towards her per se. Rachel Levine is odd looking. And that is the source, I promise you, of 90% of the contempt from the shows that allege to be balanced. Listen to me and answer me this question. If I said, okay, instead of Rachel Levine, let me bring this one out. This one, imagine somebody who could pass for what we used to call a supermodel. Let's just assume there are people, men, who spend more time on their looks and their skin and their hair than any woman on this planet. Any woman. This is they might even be professional, but you talk about fooling. Oh, no. They are just, and we're not talking Dylan Mulvaney. You notice Dylan Mulvaney? Gone. Where'd Dylan Mulvaney go? Gone. Remember the biggest star ever, Bud Light? Gone. Just forgotten. Goodbye. They come and they go. And we never say, hey, what around? Because we're in a car just going by and we're looking at all the sights. We don't have time to. We're just looking at all the pretty lights and the colors and the balloons. We don't stop. We have no attention span. Okay. But let me tell you something. If you had somebody who came out, figuratively, and looked like a Vogue model, I promise you would get a different reaction. And that may be one of the reasons why Rachel Levine is there. I don't know. I'm trying to second guess these people. Why? Because the people who represent the right, the people who actually go on, are simpletons. And they look at things from the most simple, surface level reaction there is. That's all I want to tell you. But there are people out there in the world, and they just waste our time. We are not going to have our time wasted. Now, the good news is, and what most people understand, is that babies and little kids love mommies and daddies, and there is some demented person who thinks they want to destroy that. Number two, people love, this is, Elle and I love to go out in the evening and we walk around in the neighborhood and we had these wonderful softball teams. The other day we saw a kickball team. It was wonderful. A kickball team where the city sponsored and there's an umpire with the kickball. Remember kickball? Loved it. And we're running around and I looked and there was this young man and he must have been, 15, 16 with his girlfriend, 15, 16. And they were absolutely ready to tear each other apart. And I thought, isn't that beautiful? There is love. There is boy, girl. There is sports and families and people who still love great music, great, just good stuff. I mean, it's there is this kernel and this foundation of normalcy. Do not believe this nonsense. That's all I'm saying. And remember something. I'm going to say this very, very quickly. I'm not surprised when the left says something stupid. But the people that I find the most loathsome are the people on the right who start off from a moral superiority, whose own personal lives are so filled with corrupt, disgusting behavior, and yet all of a sudden they're the paragons of purity and morality and what's right and wrong. This is the hypocrisy of this. The louder somebody yells about what's right and wrong, the more they have to hide. All right, my friends. Now, let me ask you this. Please remember, follow me on X, that Twitter thing. Next, subscribe to the channel. We want you to do this, which is critical. Like this video and subscribe. Please hit the YouTube notification bell to be notified of live streams and news video. Also, go to lionelmedia.com to subscribe to my uncensored. I've got a 3-parter today on 9/11 where I just point out everything that's always blown my mind. Also, Lynn's Warriors. Go there right now to X or Twitter. She's at Lynn's_Warriors and YouTube at Lynn's Warriors. There is that. And by the way, our dear friend Mike Lindell, still fighting the good fight. Love them, respect them, benefit them, hope for, love them. They're great, especially during this birthday, 1 day over a week until the big 65. That's right, me. Ta-da. And also, let me just leave you with this one right here. This also, which is critical. This is the link to that wonderful place where you can go and get stuff for my critical commentary under my paid subscription, where I can go into detail about stuff that really is weird, which a lot of people still don't know about. And I don't say something just because I think it happened. I say things because I know. All right, my friends, have a great and glorious day. Don't ever change. I mean that sincerely. We'll see you tonight, 7 p.m. right here. Thank you for your time, your effort, and your bravery. And until then, remember these words: the monkey's dead, the show's over, sue ya. Da, da.